Hi, everyone. About a minute on my new Substack. It's called Out of Transmission Revisited. And what I did was revisit an article I wrote about a year ago on high voltage transmission. Now, bear with me here. It gets wonky, but the reality is that the electric grid we have today is largely the electric grid we're going to have in the future. And by that, I mean the amount of high voltage transmission. Sure, we're adding more power plants and we're adding more transformers and those kinds of things. But the amount of high voltage transmission that we have in America is about 240,000 miles. And expanding that amount of high voltage transmission is happening very slowly. And yet we hear over and over from people who are promoting the energy transition, promoting wind and solar, that we're going to see a massive expansion. 57% increase, the Department of Energy said recently in a report that they put out last year. In fact, other people saying we need to double or triple the size of the high voltage transmission network. It's not going to happen. It simply isn't going to happen. And in this piece, I simply lay out the numbers. I got the latest data from C3 Group in Atlanta. They track the amount of high voltage transmission that's built every year. We're only adding about 1,700 miles per year. And given that slow rate of build out, there's no reason to expect in anything like the next 2 or 3 decades that we're going to see a massive 50%, 70%, 100% increase in the amount of high voltage transmission. It's simply not going to happen. And why is that? It's because all around the country, as with wind and solar projects, local people are fighting high voltage transmission. People don't want these big pylons, these big power lines in their neighborhoods, in their counties, in their cities, and so they're fighting back. And some of these include Native American tribes, including the San Carlos Apache and the Tohono O'odham, who recently sued to try and stop the SunZia transmission line in Arizona. So this is all part of the battle over land use, and the high voltage transmission capacity is just one facet of the land use battles that are happening over alt energy. And the wind and solar projects, of course, I've talked about that as well. But the key constraint, of course, is how you're going to be able to connect wind and solar projects to the grid. It requires high voltage transmission, but we're building that only very, very slowly. And what does that mean? It means that all this hype about net zero, the energy transition, dramatic reductions in CO2 emissions, simply is not going to happen, at least not with renewable or wind and solar anyway. That's why we need nuclear energy. We can largely use the grid we have. Okay, I've gone for more than a minute. I'll stop there. You can read my piece, Out of Transmission Revisited. It's on my Substack. You know where to find it, robertbryce.substack.com. Thanks a lot. See ya.